Greenwoodies, Wildwooders, welcome. Mark Ryan here. Here we are again. 2019. I hope you all had a magnificent, restful, joyful holiday period. Rested up, ate, drank, were merry, all that kind of stuff. Here we are into a new year. It's an interesting process. I've always found it an interesting process from the 21st through into the spring. It's a time when you can both look forward and with positive energy and plan what you're going to do. And also part of that, I think, is looking back to see how you got where you are and what you've learned from the past. So I've been doing that the last couple of weeks just to sort of get my head back into the whole Greenwood ethos. And it's been quite interesting, actually. The whole journey's been fascinating. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about actually the layout of the cards and the process behind that, my process. It's just my personal reflections on this. Everybody's got their own personal way of doing it, and everybody has a personal relationship with whatever deck that they're using. And so I thought it would be interesting for you to get some of the reflections of how Jessica and I came to create Greenwood with the ethos, with the Wheel of the Year and the bow spread and all that kind of, all those little details which I think add a lot to the whole system. Looking back, you often think to yourself, these elements that we talk about when we talk about reading the cards, synchronicity and asking questions and creating voids. It's no big secret. It's out there. I've spoken both about it publicly, and it's in all the books, including Wild Magic, which if you haven't got, I highly recommend it because it's a very reasonably priced little book with lots of gems in it from John and Kathleen Matthews, and we talk a lot about the ethos of Wildwood, and I ramble on about science. And on that note, that was one of the things I was thinking about during this Christmas New Year period, is that I know a lot of people get sort of confused when I start talking about science and mythology, because I think it appears that I'm somehow trying to reduce the mystical side of it into a scientific equation, and I'm not. And anybody that ever has read any Rupert Sheldrake or Max Tegmark or any of these scientists that are exploring panpsychism and the concept of different fields, whether it's the morphic field or the conscious field, we know so little about how this functions. It's a whole mystery unto itself, how the universe functions and how we interact with it in terms of the human conscious. And for me, I've always tried to have a framework for me to explain for myself how this functions. I've had so many strange little things that have occurred to me in my life, which those of you that have read Holdfast or any of the other stuff, that's the little marbles, little gifts that I get from the universe. That was the very first one at the well, which I won't tell you where it is because I promised not to give away that location of that particular place. But synchronicity is when you ask a well a question, and the question is profoundly important to your understanding of the whole process, and out of the sky drops a little marble. And throughout my life I've had several of them appear. Whoever you are that brings them, thank you. I appreciate them, whoever you are. And the same with my uncle's ring. For those of you that know the story of my Uncle Eric's ring, that's the ring. You just have to keep going to the end of the road until you find the ring, and then you have to sometimes ask the mountain for your ring back, and it will respond. So on that note about asking questions, let's talk about this whole framework of how we set this up in terms of my own reading for people. When I read for people, it's usually an elongated process. It's usually at least an hour. I can't seem to get it down. I'm not one of those people that can just read quickly and tear through it. I really need to delve down, get my fingers into the roots, if you like, of the issue. So usually it takes me an hour, and I actually find it quite tiring. But it's the most rewarding, for me, it's the most rewarding way of doing it. And I usually don't want to know what the question is. I might ask details as we get into the spread later on and the particular cards that have shown up. But for the most part, I trust the cards. I trust the system and the process. I trust the process and let it bring a response which is useful, practical, and insightful for the person that's asking the question. I use the 7 piles method to break up the deck. Just because I feel that I want to give the deck as clean a start with the person that I'm reading for as possible. So I use the 7 piles method, which mathematically breaks up the deck so that no card that was sitting in the pile before is next to the card when you do the reading. It just breaks up the deck. It's almost, I see it literally as breaking the universe up into its constituent parts. Difficult try saying that Thursday afternoon. Constituents, parts, and then let the person who's asking the question rebuild that universe internally and externally within the cards, and choosing the cards in a way which makes sense for them, subconsciously, which is how we get to this whole idea of synchronicity. So I use the 7 pile method to do that. And then I let the person shuffle the cards. I don't touch the cards. And then we do the bow spread. Now, for those of you that are interested in this kind of stuff, I believe that subconsciously and within our thought processes, we communicate in a reality that we still really don't understand, and in a way that we still don't understand, with a conscious element of the universe. And that when we ask a question, we're creating a void. We're asking a question of the universe, which the universe will answer. It's its nature to answer questions. It's its nature to bring you a response. So when you create a void, you will get some kind of a response. Careful the wish you make. Wishes are children. Wishes come true, not free. There's always an element of responsibility in the question that you ask. So, but it is profound. It's a profound way of approaching it, and I think it gives the best results. So I like the person to shuffle the cards and think about the real deep emotional roots related to the question that they're asking, and make a connection with the deck so that the cards that they are choosing really reflect elements within the situation that they're seeking some kind of insight or guidance into. The bow spread, I think I actually attempted to give Cheska bow lessons at one point in the proceedings. As you can imagine, my house throughout the years has been filled with various swords, bows, knives, everything that I have waved about on film sets, and certainly during Robert and Sherwood during the years. So I had to have several bows laying about. So the bows were very much a part of, obviously, my life, and the concept of releasing arrows in a purposeful and meaningful way became a powerful symbol of the process of reading cards. And that's how we developed that whole process, not just into the Wheel of the Year ethos, but because it goes back so far in history, archery, but also as a process of marshalling one's thoughts and aiming one's arrows of desire at the target, at the question. We went to Breen Down. Those of you that knowing about Dion Fortune will know that Cheska was a huge Dion Fortune fan. And so we actually went to Breen Down to explore some of those aspects. We went to various places, but and we explored the Mere trackway bow in the British Museum, which is one of the oldest bows ever found in the UK. It's a 6-foot bow which was found by one of the Mere trackways. It's a big bow, and it appears, I think it's made out of reeds that then are bound together, reed wood which is bound together, to give it the tensile strength and the energy of the limbs. So we studied that and we talked about that a lot as part of this bow spread, which is both in Greenwood and we carried it on into Wildwood with John and Caroline. And that process of laying out the cards then is not just simply where you throw down the cards in any particular order. I wanted to understand, well, we pick a significator, usually I just pick a card that the person picks and ask if that is a part of an element. Is it one of the elements within the question that they've asked? Usually it is. So we use that as a significator. The second card is then what we call the riser, the heart of the bow, which you have to have control of to make sure your arrows are going on in the right direction. Obviously the top limb is the conscious limb, the lower limb is the subconscious limb, and the string is what has the energy which is passing through the whole reading, and the knocking point for the arrow to the string, and the arrowhead, which is the card that you're going to aim at the significator of the question. That layout, which is in both of the books, and I've talked about it many times publicly and otherwise, has been extraordinarily accurate throughout the 30 years I've been doing this. And again, it's just personal. It works for me. It doesn't mean you have to do it. There's lots of different ways of doing this, as you know. But that I would advise people to try it with this deck and see if it works for them. If it doesn't work for you, then fine. Because not everybody's got an hour to spend working through this process. But I've always found it to be highly accurate and insightful. I think in the 30 odd years I've been doing this, I've only once had somebody say to me, I don't understand. Can't relate to any of the imagery or any of the elements that is in this layout and in this deck. And I believe I was in San Francisco, and the person who had asked me the questions, I said, well, I don't know what else to say to you. This is what we've got to work with, and there must be somewhere something about this that either you misplaced mentally, or you put it to one side emotionally, or you don't want to deal with it, whatever. And about an hour and a half later, after doing the reading, I got a phone call in the hotel room from this person saying, as they were driving home, they were chatting to their partner, and the person had said, was explaining about what had come up in the cards, and the person, well, yeah, but that's related to this, that's this is this. And so, oh, wow. So it wasn't until they actually got in the car, were driving home, they went, oh, I never thought of that. That is exactly matching that situation. So sometimes you get what you're not expecting. And it's all part of the process of working through this stuff. So the layout and the bow spread I think is a very, very accurate, useful tool to use with both Wildwood and Greenwood. And obviously the reading of it. I've always tended just to be open. As I say, I don't want to know what the question is. I just read the cards literally as they lay out in the bow spread itself, and try not to personalize it. Sometimes I do believe it's a person, and we may do this several times. We may work through this whole process several times. Usually about 3 times is the maximum, because you're going to get if you ask the same question, as I think I've relayed in previous videos that we've done, you will get the same answer. It will just give it to you in different ways. You'll get different aspects, and you may get the same cards in different places, but you will get the same answer, even if you know what the answer to the question is. I've had that as well. So there are several mechanical things working within all of this system. Again, the object is not to demystify the magical side of it, because to some extent subatomic particle physics is magic in the most profound ways. When we start talking about manufacturing antimatter at CERN labs and holding it in electromagnetic cages for 9 seconds, Human beings have done this. This to me is magic, that you can actually create antimatter. We've done that. It's still mystical. It's still quite extraordinary that the human mind can come up with these ideas and then manifest them in this reality. And that is what I think where tarot is unique in the human experience. It is a map of the human psyche. But more than that, it's a stepping stone into your thoughts, your processes being able to manifest themselves in your reality, or at least to be able to give you a picture to look at. Because I don't believe in fate, as I think we've talked about in the past. Fate to me is not set. It's something that you can change. We can change by the way we're observing it and the way that we interact with our own reality. I personally have always believed if you have a thought and a desire and a wish and you send that out there, but you also back it up by physically moving forward with it, with that drive, you create a new wave of possibilities and probabilities. And the more that you pursue that wave, the more possibilities and probabilities you open up for yourself. I'm not one for sitting still and waiting for the universe to bring me an answer. Sometimes it has. Sometimes it needs to get my attention by throwing things at me. Some of these instances are in Andy Collins' book, The Seventh Sword. There'll be witnesses for this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's just to give you some kind of inside look into how the process that Cheska and I developed for Greenwood Tarot, how it was developed in terms of the practical side of going and looking at these locations and absorbing that, and how then I was able to bring some of these ideas to Cheska, who obviously was a very natural empath in terms of being able to look into the nature and the wildwood and Greenwood and draw out those images, and how we developed those images together and how they turned into what became the Greenwood Tarot. So I hope that process has been insightful, helpful to you folks. Just to let you know, we are looking at various avenues at the moment to develop the deck now, and different card stock and different edgings, gilt edgings and boxes and finishes for the deck. So we are practically looking at that right now. It's going to be my project for 2019. We're going to have this underway this year. Again, thank you all for the nice messages of support and the best wishes. And I wish you all a healthy, prosperous, creative, wander into the Greenwood this year. And I hope it's a healing time for everybody, and a time where everybody can use this knowledge for the betterment of humanity and person inside themselves. So again, thank you. I will see you again very shortly, probably another couple of weeks. We'll have more details about now the developing of the course and how we're going to handle that. And we'll start developing this now into the spring and into the summer. So stay tuned, come back. I'll do another little video again in a couple of weeks. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask me personally. Again, I'm not going to go on to every single thing that's been said online. But if you've got something regarding the positive side of this that you want to ask about, please drop a note either on the Facebook page or on the YouTube. And I will endeavour to answer any and all reasonable questions in a positive way. Okay, thank you again for listening. I'll see you soon, and be careful out there. 2019. Okay, let's go.